talking about going. So it's kind of funny that we get to keep playing back and forth between how these little ideas can affect God's story that he wants to tell through us. And so, before we get started, because we need to do this. Start with something that's funny to me. See, I've changed it. I used to say something that's funny, but I think it is just funny for me. So I'll just do it. There was a young man who was walking on the beach and just admiring God's beauty. And God was talking to him and decided that this young man was doing so well in the service to God that God said, "Hey, I'm going to grant you one wish." So he's talking to the young man. He says, "One wish, what would you like?" "I've always wanted to go to Hawaii, but I hate flying. Could you build me a bridge from here to Hawaii?" And God's like, that's kind of it's not impossible, but just let's think of the logistics. How are we going to do that? How about something else? And he goes, "Well, I've been married 4 times, and every time I get divorced, my ex-wife says how insensitive I am. So God, I just want you to help me understand women, the way they think, the way they feel." And God says, "So do you want 2 lanes or 4? All right. Thought that would get me in trouble by at least one person. Or maybe you just understand that you're difficult. All right. Just kidding. All right. Today we're going to be talking about going. There's a quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it says, "Don't go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." There are some times in life that each of us are going to have, I like to call it a calling. Excuse me. Maybe for you, just feel something inside of you that is making you want to do something different, something meaningful, something that could impact other people's lives, something that's not comfortable, something that could, possibly be leaving everything behind that but you have it in you. Not many people act out on those feelings or those events or those callings from God. I feel like in each of us, and this has kind of been our theme moving through this journey, that in each of us, God is writing a story. And he desperately wants to help co-author your story. He wants your story to be rooted in his goals and desires and journey for you. Because after all, what Bruce told us by breaking out the stars in our universe and all those things is God, and all of those creations, we were the only ones that he handcrafted. Everything else he spoke into creation, God spoke and it happened. Light and darkness, stars and the fish of the sea, the birds of the air. He spoke all those things into existence. But when he got to us, he spent time and literally got his hands dirty, creating us out of the dust to be in his image. He spent time on you, creating you. Not only did he create you, but he created you to be in the image of him. He has great and awesome knowledge of who you are, who you can be, and what he wants you to be. The issue is, we would love for him just to write the story solo. God, just write it for me and make me do everything that you want me to do. God is not in the business of making you do anything. What God is in the business of is trying to call you to him. And in this journey, you may have been writing an autobiography this whole time. And what he wants to do for you is say, let me pick up the pen every once in a while. When you feel my presence in your life, maybe it's led you to a spot where you were hoping was a highway, but instead was a bunch of bushes, and here's your machete, let's write this story together. And that's God's calling for you. And the cool thing is when we start to hack through the bushes to lead us to this great, amazing summit where we can see God's view in all of its glory, we've left a trail for those who are following behind us, that maybe their trail through our path might be easier. As a parent, I'm hoping that I'm leaving a great trail behind me so that my children can see a path that their dad took. And maybe it'll encourage them that when they get to a spot that God may have called them to, that they're ready to get their hands dirty and let God pick up the pen as well. it's scary. And we're going to talk about the fears that come behind it. But, you know, there's some things that really, okay, I kind of gave us a really deep and thoughtful, I hope it was came across that way because it was, about why God calls us to stay sometimes. How easy it is to want to get up and run away, but He really wants you to stay planted and to be strong through it. Today, I don't want you to take that and say, well, now He's telling us to go. Yesterday He told us, last week He told us to stay. Two different topics. One is running away in fear, right? And that's why you were called to stay. This one is you're staying in fear and you're called to go. And so let's read this together. It says, sometimes the best decision is to go, even when it would be much easier to stay. How many of you remember the story of Abram and Sarai? Abram and Sarai. So he was raised in an area where they worshipped a moon god. Abraham, is known as the father of faith and all these different things. But what you don't know about Abram, before he becomes Abraham, is he had no knowledge of God until God just told him, pick up your stuff and go, and I'm going to bless you. Think about this for a second for you. Could you imagine everything you know, all your family, all your friends, your faith in whatever that may be at the time, your comfort, all of those things is where you're at, and out of nowhere God calls you and says, if you pick up your stuff and leave and go to this land that I'm telling you to go to, I am going to give you a blessing that will blow your mind. Would you go, or would you say, God, you're crazy? Let's read it. In Genesis 12, 1 through 3, starting, we're going to kind of pick around for Genesis 12. The Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, your father's household, to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Isn't this a crazy promise, right? But how easy would it have been for Abram to say, one, I'm really old, so how are you going to give me a nation? Two, why would I want to leave a place that has already given me life up to being 73 or 75, whatever it is when he leaves? Why would I even care to do this? And who are you? How do I even know that you are greater than the God that I'm already worshiping? I would rather sit in my comfort and live out the rest of my life being comfortable than to believe that you might bless me through your promises. It takes a leap here. And don't get me wrong, Abraham doesn't really get his faith yet, but this first step is one of the reasons why he is known as the father of faith. Because he is stepping out and leaping into something that would make any of us feel uncomfortable. So I want you to think about that. There's a story in the book that we're going through on this Divine Direction about a woman and her husband. They were both doctors. Both of them now, they've had a practice that has been successful. They're doing very well for themselves. Their kids are grown and out of the house. And all of a sudden, he paints the picture of them packing their bags. And as the woman is packing her bags, she's starting to get into deep thought about how difficult this is going to be, because what they're doing is they're getting ready to go to Tanzania. They're getting ready to leave the practice, to leave every comfort that they have, to go to a place that, one, doesn't really have water on a regular basis, definitely doesn't have electricity that is reliable. So think about all the comforts of living in, I believe they are from Southern California, living in a nice climate place with nice comfortable things, with money and no more kids to drive them crazy or give them a blessing, whatever it is. And instead, they are now feeling a call to go somewhere because on a trip a while back, they felt called to help children and women who were trafficked around Africa to make profit through using their bodies. And as she's sitting there packing her bag, she's talking to her husband and says, are we really making the right choice? And what's beautiful about a godly relationship is he was there to say, we know we are. It's going to be difficult. It is. And for us, it may even feel impossible. But the good thing is we're not going for us. We're going for God. And with God, nothing is impossible. What I need you to understand is we aren't changed by the promises that we make to God. We are changed by the promises that he makes to us. You may be like me and have done this from time to time. God, if you only just let me pass this test. This was me in college. I even wrote things on my paper. Maybe my teacher will have pity on me and it's like, God, please help me. Or they think that I'm in an abusive relationship. Whatever it is, I don't know. But I was like, God, if you just give me the right words to this, I promise I will. These were my struggles at the time. I'll never swear again. I promise I'll do all my homework next time. You'll see me every Sunday. And I will promise to baptize at least one person this year. This is the stupid scenarios that I give God. He can look at me and understand, what can we give a God who created the universe? Nothing. We are never going to be changed by a promise that we made God. God, if you make this work, I'll give you a little something under the table. Think about it. It doesn't work that way. Instead, it's the opposite. God is saying, if you just listen to me, follow the ways that I put before you, and I promise you, your blessings will come from me. Now, we like to take things and make it a little bit too literal, right? And we think that, okay, I have my Bible, I have my directions. If I follow it verbatim, word for word, I will never struggle in my life here on this earth. I will never have financial problems. I will never have marital problems. I'll never have relational issues. I won't have a car that breaks down on my way to work. I will never have any issue because I opened my Bible and I read it today. So because I did that, my life is going to be perfect and awesome. My kid will always listen to me. They will never do what's wrong. I will always have everything together. You are looking in the wrong direction for a blessing that is coming from God. Instead, what he says is, you go out, you listen to me, you follow in my ways, you live in the grace that I have given you through my Son, and you will have a crown waiting for you. When Jesus left, he was telling his disciples, I'm going ahead of you to my Father's house, and I will prepare a room for you. I don't go and prepare a room for someone who's not going to come back with me. I'm going to come back, and I'll bring you with me. There is a promise that is given to us, that if we just listen, that if we take the pen and hand it over to God and say, I need you to start writing the rest of these chapters for me. I want you to write an ending that is so much better, but give me the faith to start the chapter. Your faith may not be strong enough to finish it. You may not be strong enough to finish it, but when you hand over who's writing, he will guide you through the rest of the direction. So let's talk about going back to Abraham in verse 4. We're not changed by the promises we make, but the other way around. So what does he do? Abraham went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out to Haran. We think about this. Late in life, how many of you here have done something the same way for so long that you don't even think about it anymore? It's just who you are. Some of you here are probably right around 75 years old or so. How many of you go to the closet, you pull out the same outfit for each day of the week just because that's your comfortable Monday outfit? Maybe breakfast for you is still that same bowl of oatmeal right next to whatever it is. We do this because we become creatures of habit. Where in the very beginning, when we first made this choice, our brain had to register so many different things to make sure that this choice that we are making is weighed out between all the pros and cons, what it's going to do to my life, what it won't, all the health benefits versus the other one. And then over time, it just became who we are, and we became comfortable in it, and that's just our identity. And at 75 years old, when you're kind of rooted in some things, and you're rooted in some ways, you're called to go and leave all that behind. How willing would you be to trust that there's a promise sitting there waiting for you? Oftentimes we get to this bridge and we get to this crossroads and we say, I don't know if I can get there. I'm a little afraid to make that next step. It's almost the same idea as last week, but last week was, how can you get grounded into something, not being afraid to really put everything that you have into it. And then at the end, you can say, I tried everything. This moment here is so much different. What are you going to miss out on? Could you imagine this? If Abraham didn't make this leap, what do we know about Abraham later in the Bible? What is God referred to? God is referred to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. If Abraham didn't make this step, maybe the Bible would say the God of Stanley, Bob, and Harry. Abraham wouldn't have had any of the blessings that were there for him because he wouldn't have made the step. He could have looked back and still have been worshiping the moon god and seeing somebody else go out and being the lead start of a great nation. One that we also know that Abraham never gets to see himself on earth. A promise that God gave him. But he took a leap, and the story is written about Abraham, who fathers a nation, who leads a group of people to a land that was promised to him, to start a journey not just for himself, but to a group that would be so numerous that you couldn't count them. They would be like the sand at the sea, stars in the sky. And it started with taking a step. What gets us from making those steps? And it's this, really. Fear keeps you from doing the thing that God wants you to do. There's a definition of fear, that fear is the absence of faith. That if you have fear dictating your life, you don't have faith in a God that is bigger than everything. So don't let fear keep you from going where God is calling you. It was only a few months ago that many of you know we started the shoe ministry here about 4 years ago. One of my former youth group kids was working at a Vans store in Sunrise Mall, and she told me about this amazing opportunity that because we like to help out kids, if you call my manager, we have donations that they would love to give to a place that's keeping things local. I didn't call because I got busy. And luckily God blessed us, and that manager called me, let me know that Red Cross and the Sacramento Children's Home decided that they didn't want this collection of shoes, and that they would love to give it to us. Through this journey of 4 years of giving shoes to needy children in our community, now 3 stores give us their shoes, but in this journey, we've given out thousands of shoes. I don't know if you've known this. I'm trying to get better at getting us all involved in this, but over the last 4 years, we've given out over 1,000 pairs of shoes to kids in Elk Grove and the Sacramento area. And what happened from this is I was sitting in my home office, get a call from a counselor at a school, and it just happened to be a school that I grew up going to, and some of you in here too, Fern-Bacon, and Luther Burbank High School. And when I was graduating high school, I could not wait to get out of South Sacramento. I counted the days of get me out of this ghetto and bring me somewhere else because I'm just too tired. And I never wanted to come back. I just didn't. I did not miss it. I never visited my high school. Some people like to go back to homecomings. I didn't. My class didn't even have a 10-year reunion. I don't know why. I just think it was, nobody wanted to go back. I don't know. But there was just this call to never, ever step foot back there. I sold my mom's house a couple years ago, and I finally said there's no reason for me ever to step foot back in this neighborhood again because there's no house to take care of. There's nothing there. I can rid myself of this burden that has plagued me for 30-something years, right? And you know what God does? He says, hey, I need you to go back into your old neighborhood. And I get a phone call that says, hey, you went here. And one of our teachers, Victoria, she teaches there, she says, one of our teachers let me know that you go here. We already know that you give shoes, but I'd rather have you do that. But also, could you speak to some of our kids, let them know that there's something bigger than getting stuck here, that you can actually do something productive with your life? And I started to think about all of that, and I was like, wow, what an honor to be able to feel like I had something successful come out of this place, the things that it has taught me. Then I went back to my high school and got to speak to kids that were on their way to juvenile hall to give them a glimmer of hope that people care about them more than just a game that is calling them to them. We got to do this a couple times. Tim and I went out. I went out to Fern-Bacon with Tim and another guy who was speaking one time. There was opportunity to do something in a place that I never wanted to go back to. And I felt like it was God saying, it's time for you to go and help show the kids that path that you charged through where there was no path. To give them hope that there's a way to something bigger. And through it, God allowed me to use a message of hope that only comes through Christ to a school. How often do you get to share about God in a public school in California, of all places? And now we're in 14 different schools. We have a nickname at one of our local schools when we come to help out, that we get to be the God Squad that comes and saves the day when they need volunteers or helping. God started to do something through an accident of not calling a place to get some shoes for kids, having them call us. And through a journey that you just see as something that is kind of a peripheral thing, that we're just giving shoes and there's not much that goes into it, God used something to start writing chapters of other kids' lives through something so simple as getting a free pair of shoes or getting a conversation that they wouldn't have somewhere else. Going back to an old neighborhood that you could care less about, and then finding out how much you really care about them because you've seen what it does to people when they don't have a mentor, when they don't have someone to look up to, when the only person that they think that cares about them wants them to take a blame for something that they did because they were told that they will get a less jail sentence than they would. It may not be that dramatic for you. You may be called to something completely different. Like, I've lived in the same neighborhood for 20 years, and I'm always kind of nice to my neighbors, but I never once even told them about Jesus. I feel like this is the time. I don't know what it's going to be for you, but whatever you feel of God's thumb pressing down on your heart, don't let fear stop you from actually getting up and going out and doing something productive with your life. And productive doesn't mean going out and getting a good job and making money. Don't let fear dictate you. We read this in 2 Timothy 1:7, our scripture reading. For the Spirit of God does not make us timid, but it gives us power and love and self-discipline. We weren't made to be fearful. We were made to be powerful because we have a spirit that lives within us. The same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead. And this is what we were meant to do. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Everything that you have before you has been prepared for you. But if you're holding the pen, you will never see those good works. But if you allow God to start writing some chapters for you, you will start to find the path that He's called for you to do some great things and to find some ways of affecting people and helping them to know who God is. And so, we'll finish with this. You ready? I always think of a Giants broadcast when I hear this one, but it would say something a little bit different than going, gone. But let's get out there. Let's get moving. Let's go forward. And let's read this. In Matthew chapter 14, 25 through 30, we get some promises too that were given to us here. It says, shortly before dawn, it looks like down. And I was like, that does not make sense. Jesus went out walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. It's a ghost, they said. And they cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, take courage, it is I, don't be afraid. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. And Peter got down out of the boat. He walked in the water and came towards Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was there, he was afraid. And beginning to seek, he cried out, Lord, save me. I bring this up just for this. Out of all the people on that boat, not one of them had any courage to do something that was so amazing and so great, but Peter. He didn't have the courage to sustain it by himself, however, but he had the courage to make the first step. Could you imagine this? Out of all the people who were sitting on the boat, can't you imagine that they all said, oh, dang it, I should have said that too. There's only one other person in all of creation that got to walk on water besides Jesus. It was Peter, because he was willing to get out of the boat. Are you willing to get out of the boat, even when it's scary? Are you willing to get out of the boat when the storm is going, the wind's blowing, to make a step towards Jesus? And even when you're getting there and you look around and you get a little caught up in what the world is doing to you, and you start to think, there was still enough courage in him to say, Lord, please save me. And even though he didn't have enough to finish what he was trying to do, getting towards Jesus, Jesus still reached down and said, picked him up. He did give him a little faith there. That's another encouragement. It's not always going to be easy and perfect, but if you're willing to take a step out, you will be the one that says, I'm so glad I at least tried to get after it. Instead of sitting on the boat saying, man, I really wish I walked on water too. Can we do a redo? Don't regret the fact that you might not get a redo. You have an opportunity today to make a step to start your walking on the water with Jesus too. Allow him to work within you. Be bold. Be courageous. Have courage. Don't be afraid, because we are also promised that Jesus is with us to the end of the age, and we don't have to do it alone. Let's go to God in prayer. Dear Father, you're an awesome, incredible, and amazing God. We don't deserve you in our life. We just don't. We've actually deserved to be on the cross, but you took our place instead. I'm just so grateful that you love us in spite of who we are, that in all of this amazing creation that you created it for us to enjoy, so that we can see your power every day, to see that you are God, to be caught in a fear, in an awe and a wonder of how amazing it is to be a servant of the Most High God. God, I pray that today, we're not afraid to take a step towards you, to say, God, if it is you who is really calling me, help me to get out of this boat so that I too can walk with you. And when we start to stumble, forgive us and pick us up out of that water, God, so that we can continue to do great works for you that you have prepared for us to do before we were even thought of by our parents, before we were even old enough to think on our own. You already had some great things, not good things, not okay things, but great things to do in your name. Give us the encouragement and help us to get there, God. I praise in your son's name. Amen. If you're outside of Christ, we want to know what it's like.